Former President Obama's Defense Secretary Ash Carter is offering a new inside look at the Pentagon, one of the world's largest and most complex organizations. It comes at a time, of course, of rising tensions between the U.S. and other nations. Iran's foreign minister said this morning that the U.S. cannot expect to stay safe, that's his words, after launching what he called an economic war against Tehran. And just last week, this Russian warship came within feet of crashing into the USS Chancellorsville in the Philippine Sea. Carter tells the story of the Pentagon and how it deals with security threats in his new book, Inside the Five-Sided Box, Lessons from a Lifetime of Leadership in the Pentagon. And Ash Carter joins us first on CTM. Secretary, good morning.
Good to be here.
So there's a lot to get to in the book and also in the wider world, but I wanted to start with something that has the potential to color everything that you tell us today, and that's 2 years ago, a little bit more, you said that you are outside of politics. You declined to comment on President Trump and the Trump administration. In this book, you do comment, and you comment strongly. You say the president is not someone you would work for. You say his administration is characterized by offensive, racist, divisive language, and that you would fire an officer for it. What changed between you being outside of politics and today? And are you worried that people like yourself commenting, wading in this way, could politicize something like the Department of Defense?
It's not politics. It's personal conduct. In the book, I'm talking about the way that public servants in all the years I worked for presidents of both parties for 37 in Pentagon's for over 37 years, and I used to tell officers and soldiers that they needed to behave themselves. That part of the profession of arms was honor and trust, and it's not just the president. It's the kind of behavior and personal conduct that you see everywhere in Washington today is not the kind of thing, as the book said, that we tolerated in the military.
So if the president
I fired people for doing that, and my subordinates fired people for even less. So we held to high standards, and I think that's important. On the question of whether to work for President Trump or not, this is purely hypothetical.
Yeah, you also point out you weren't asked to work for him.
No, I haven't
saying that.
Well, the point I was making in the book was I was giving advice to future office holders and I was saying that in order, your first duty as a cabinet secretary is to serve the president, to help him. And all I was saying there with respect to President Trump is I wouldn't know how to help him because he doesn't seem to take the advice of his cabinet secretaries. And so I couldn't take a job knowing that what I know and what I brought to the job, I wouldn't be able to apply to helping him. We need to help him succeed. He's the president of the United States.
And that's not wading into politics?
I wouldn't know how to.
These comments are not wading into politics?
I was talking about the Pentagon and giving advice to future leaders of the Pentagon about how to behave themselves and whether, when they're offered a job, to say yes or not. And I was saying you only say yes if you believe that you can
make a difference.
Yeah. You spent 35 years in the Defense Department. What do you see as the most urgent threat facing this country right now?
Well, unfortunately, we don't have one. We have China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, terrorism. And I'll tell you, it's not a place, but I think I'm confident in our plans and our capabilities with respect to all five of those today. I have great confidence in them. The future is more concerning to me. It's a competitive world. All five of those potential opponents are focused on us, and we have to deal with all five of them. And it's a fast-moving world in technology, and so we need to make sure we stay competitive, because being the best, which we are, isn't a birthright. You got to keep earning it in every job.
But you're concerned about that, though, Ash Carter. You say in the book the U.S. military needs to regain the competitive edge. It has slipped away a little bit from us.
Yeah, we used to have the Soviet Union as a sort of benchmark for ourselves to compete against. And then the Cold War ended, and there was that decade when Russia was weak, China was weak. And then we have been focusing, and I focused on them, and I don't no apologies for that, Iraq, Afghanistan, counterinsurgency, counterterrorism. I was all in for those when I was in the Defense Department. You have to be, because the troops are at war.
Can we talk about how big the Defense Department is?
That doesn't prepare you for the future.
It's massive. You point out the Defense Department employs more men and women than Amazon, McDonald's, FedEx, Target, General Electric, conducts more research than Apple, Google, and Microsoft, You said
Combined.
Combined. Yeah, that's a very good point to make.
Word.
You said this is not a memoir. You just wanted people to know how big it is and that you felt uniquely qualified to do this job. Because you worked in all departments.
It just turns out I first walked into the Department of Defense in 1981. Caspar Weinberger was the Secretary of Defense. Ronald Reagan was the President of the United States. And I walked out just before the inauguration in 2017. And so I've seen a lot. And it turns out I've been in every corner of the place. And so if you want to, you're one of these people who wants to get behind the sort of mystery of what is the Pentagon and how does it work? How do you buy fighter jets? How do you hire and fire people on basis of conduct? How do you conduct wars? How do you manage the world's largest enterprise?
You describe Biden.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, you describe Joe Biden as an old friend in the book. He's now running for president. Do you think that old friend is the strongest candidate in the field?
That is politics. And I don't do politics.
Oh, you don't do politics. I think
I'll tell you why he's a friend,
might find that you do politics.
He's a friend because my wife lived in Baltimore, and I used to ride the train all the time from Washington to Baltimore, and that's how I know he's a lovely man, a very nice man. But I'm not in politics. I've never been in politics. I'm not going to call
People who read this book might say otherwise.
Yes, I agree with that.
See.
We can say that today you're wearing a suit and a tie. You tell a great story when you landed in the Middle East and somebody said to you, what, no tie today when you were meeting the troops?
That was my very first
trip.
From
now on,
a friend of mine
he always wears a tie.
Me, and he saw a picture, because pictures taken all the time. And I got off the plane in the clothes I had worn on the plane, and we were going to a hotel, and I was going to change into a suit. And right away, he wrote to me and said, no suit. And the bulb went off. You always need to look proper. And it's another part of behavior.
Yeah.
But you said, look like someone's mom is watching.
I would
That's very good
stand out
advice.
in the desert, shaking hundreds of hands, looking just like this and sweating like a wheel of cheese under there. But why did I do that? I did that.
I'm going to steal that.
That's a good graphic, a wheel of cheese. Thank you, Ash Carter. Thank you very much.